once again, people, if you will have known, I have already done a stream of today, and I already stopped it a bit earlier. It was just basically a lengthy stream where I did a bunch of books, tortured myself to death doing pointless random books. We didn't actually do many books, because one of them was extremely long, like a lot of pages long, and it took forever to read, and then we ended up doing the manual. And the manual took a while to read. So yeah, between the two of them, it basically ended up taking most of the episode. We did some extra stuff, but we only kind of got down to 26 from like 32, so we only did like 6 books in total, and not much progress. So hopefully this part, we'll do some more. Kind of good thing about doing this one is that it's like a continuation of the last part instead of kind of stopping. I already have read it and uploaded the last part, so it kind of works to do another part since we happen to have the time to squeeze in another random one. So yeah, this has just kind of been decided to be crammed in here because why not? Okay, I can actually see my footage this time, which is good because last time I didn't. End the stream. Let's do this. We gotta do this professionally. I've already added all the new books to my document, so hopefully that will help me. I probably forget exactly everything I was doing. King Edward Part the 5th, 7th, 8th? Do I have that one? I don't think so. Too many parts of King Edward, people. I have to like remember all these numbers of books that we actually got. I tell you, it'll be nice when we actually get some less books in here, so that way I don't have to scroll through all this. King Edward Part 1, 4, 1, 4, 3, 10, 5. Yeah, so it's 3, 4, 5, 1, and 10. So we don't have 8. So just a randomly apart in our whole excursion. Brief History of the Empire. We have part 1, right? Gotta. Part 2. Plaything. Had to go down to the bottom. Trying to find the book. Where's the book? There's the book. Brief History of the Empire. How many books is that one? If there's just 2 books, we might actually be wasting our time. History of the Empire. Daggerfall. There's 4 books. Okay. So yeah. 4 books in Brief History. Another book we need in that. And then there's like King Edward, which is a bunch of parts. We have part 5, right? Yeah, I think so. I think I remember part 5. Let's make sure of this one. It's just gonna be a lot of it, people. We're gonna keep going through the same things, trying to make sure, because there's no real organization here. Seriously, why couldn't we have some sort of organization of all this? Or like, arena whereby we could see text? That way I could ignore all this? But yeah. That's basically all that shelf. Now, I believe we've done, like, this shelf, so... yep. All stuff I recognize. This one. Stuff I recognize. Let's get to this shelf. We have these books. The Brothers of Darkness. I believe that's the one on the Dark Brotherhood, if I'm correct. I want to make sure, but I'm pretty sure that's the book on the Dark Brotherhood. Brothers of Darkness, we've done. Yep, so I'm right. Just want to make sure. King Edward Part 12. I don't think we have Part 12. Part 10, Part 3, Part 4, Part 1. Yeah, so 5, 10, 3, 4. So it's 3, 4, 5, 1. Yeah, so 1, 3, 4, 5. and 10. Then this part we just added on this one, which is 8. But we don't have 12. It says this 12, and I believe that's the final one. I believe we saw that one before, but I ignored it because we didn't want it. Might be longer than that, but I have no idea. Healer's Tale, we've done. Mysticism. I don't recognize that name. Nope, that's one we haven't done. Haha, we found one that we haven't done. About time. Like I said, it's going to be a lot less frequent that we're going to see ones that we haven't done because we've done a lot. But that's exactly the thing. Cut down the ones that we haven't done. This will cut me down to 25. Mysticism, the Unfathomable Voyage. Only 3 pages too, okay. Mysticism is a school of magic least understood by the magical community. Most difficult to explain to novice mages. The spell's effects, commonly ascribed to the school of mysticism, are as widely disparate as Soul Trap, the creation of a cell for the victim's spirit after death, the silence, the extinction of sound. Oh, to silence the extinction of sound. I tell you, sometimes the Daggerfall font's so hard to read. But I digress. But these effects are simply that, effects. The sorcery behind them is veiled in a mystery that may go back to the oldest civilizations of Tamriel and beyond. The subjects of the Order of Arcaeum's term for mysticism is the old way. The phrase becomes bogged in a semantic quagmire, because the old way also refers to religion and customs of the subjects, which may or may not be part of the magic of mysticism. There are a few mages who devote their lives to the study of mysticism. The other schools are far more predictable and fathomable. Mysticism seems to derive its power from its conundrums and paradoxes. The act of experimentation, no matter how objectively implemented, can influence the magicka by its very existence. Thus, the mystic mage must regulate himself to finding consistent patterns and imbrigo of energy. And the time it takes him to find a source with a consistent trigger and result, his peers' research in other schools may have researched and documented dozens of new spells and effects. The mystic mage is a patient and uncompetitive scholar. For centuries, mostly during the Second Era, scholarly journals publishes theory after theory about the aspects of magicka that we call mysticism. In the tradition of the Mages Guild to find answers to all things, respected researchers suggested the energy source as coming from Athreus or the Daedra themselves to explain the seemingly random patterns of mysticism. Some ventured to guess that mysticism came from unused elements of successfully or unsuccessfully cast spells. Discussion with the Order of Arcaeum after its reappearance has led some scholars to postulate that mysticism is more spiritual in nature. Either the intellect or the flow or emotion of the believer influences the energy pattern and flow. None of these explanations is truly satisfactory. But to begin studying mysticism, it's best to simply learn the patterns distinguished in the maelstrom and the centuries past. The more patterns are found, the cleaner the remaining ones become. Until, of course, they change. And then the journey begins anew. And so that's a completely useless book about a school of magic that we could care less about. Ain't it brilliant, the stuff we read sometimes? I'm totally glad we read that book. That was worthwhile. One of the most important books we could have ever read. We definitely remember the contents of that one. Oil! We need oil. An overview of gods and worship. Have we done that one? I can't even tell at this point. Yep, we have. Okay, I just want to make sure. I really don't know anymore with all these history books. There's so many of them that they get confusing. Okay, how about this one? Oh look, a piece of amber. Wait, that's not gonna help me. I don't want that piece of amber. Dubious Tale of the Crystal Tower. Biography of Queen Berenza. Jokes! Okay, we have a jokes book. Because, when in doubt, have a random joke book. Yep. This is totally useful. A lengthy joke book. You ready, people? How is your wife? Asked Luther. She's in bed with laryngitis, replied Harith. Is that Argonian free packet town yet? Again? I keep seeing spots before my eyes. Have you seen a healer? No, just spots. A big Nord named Jorgen was set on by a gang of thieves. He fought them furiously, but in the end, they beat him into semi-consciousness. They searched his pockets and discovered that he only had 3 gold pieces on him. Do you mean to tell us that you fought like a mad loop for 3 lousy gold pieces? Did one of the thieves. No, answered Jorgen. I was afraid you were after the 400 gold pieces in my boot. During the War of Bethany, the Bretons in the Isle of Craghold were under siege for several days. After the island was liberated, Lord Bridwell found the ruins of the castle where a crowd of the supervisors were hidden away in the dark. It was going to be a difficult job for them, as part of the roof had collapsed, trapping them all within. Bridwell stuck his head in the only open and shouted to the Bretons below. Are there any expectant mothers down there? It's hard to say, your lordship, said a young woman. We've only been down here for a few days. An elderly Breton met with a contemporary of his at a guild meeting. Harriston, old man, I want to express my sympathy. I hear that you buried your wife last week. Had to, old boy, replied Harriston. Dead, you know. Why was the Sentinel army so useless on the War of Bethany? Their cannons were too heavy. So all 3 garbage scows sunk. What does a new Sentinel private learn first as a combat technique? How to retreat. Where's the thinnest book in the world? Red Guard Heroes of the War of Bethany. A dark elf man killed his wife after catching and making love with another man. When the magistrate asked him why he killed her instead of her lover, the man replied, I considered it better to kill one woman than a different man every week. A dark elf woman was being shown around Daggerfall. When she was shown the magnificent castle Daggerfall, she smiled sweetly to her guild and whispered, It reminds me of Sets. That's odd, said the guild. Why does our castle Daggerfall remind you of Sets? The dark elf sighed. Everything does. Yulitha told Vanessa that she was having dinner with a dark elf named Morlath that night. I hear he's an animal, said Yulitha. He'll rip your dress right off you. Thank you for telling me, said Yulitha. I'll be sure to wear an old dress. How do separate sailors in the Khajiit Navy? With a hammer and tongs. I'm confused. This orchard has sentimental value to me, said Mojad, the Khajiit, to his friend, Haslid. Under that tree, for example, is where I first made love. And that tree is where a mother stood, watching us. She watched you while you made love to her daughter? Said Haslid, clearly impressed. Didn't she say anything? Meow. What do you call a wood elf who doesn't lie or cheat or steal? A dead wood elf. Okay, that's that story. Terrible jokes, as read by Deathsucker. Are you happy? This is totally worth it. Totally worth it. Only the best for us. And by best, I mean terrible jokes. The fall of the use of... Can we read that one? I'm so confused at this point, I forget. Yep, we did. I completely forget what it's about. I think it was some other one. I thought it was how Jay got done, but it's not. I completely forget what it's about. And that's everything here! Oh, this has been a pointless excursion to another one! We need another store. Okay, now we wander around aimlessly again as we look for another store. We can always go south. South. Just quality market. That's probably not quality at all. But may have a useless book for me. And these useless books shall add up to eventually make it so I have less to read. Seriously, probably by the end we'll have to go to these bookstores more frequently and just like spam massive number just to find that last book. West. West. Okay, this is apparently it, maybe. Oh, it's east. I'm terrible at this. It's east. Okay, so we wandered around there mostly, and we found our way to a general store somehow. How I did this, I don't know how I accomplished it, but I'm at a general store. Shops, things, books, golden sword, that's a dwarven claymore. Oh look, another jokes. Full 70 part the 3rd, and the 4th. I think we have all but the 6th. There's full 70 part the 3rd. Two, 4th. It'd be nice if we could find the 6th or whatever. Oh look. Why did I just close? Just stand here, pretend that I don't exist. They won't kill me this way. Plus, I never turned my auto lock on my phone. Okay, that's better. I don't know exactly why I forgot that one. What about this one? It's totally more useful than the other one was. Obviously. King Edward Part the 5th. I don't even know if we have that one anymore. I really don't. I think, actually, maybe we do. I think it's like 3rd, 4th, and 5th, maybe. That King Edward, I completely forget. That's the problem with all these. They're getting so confusing. It'll be beautiful when we actually get some of these book series out of here. Just that way I don't have to look at them. Mara's Tear. I think that's actually one of the books we read. And that's by the crazy old lady. That was that story we read with the orgy. Yeah. On Oblivion, I believe we read that one too. On Oblivion. See, we read so many of the same books. This is going to be so hard to get those final few. In fact, there's still like over 20 books. Where are they? Like now we have to like hunt to find them. Because they're giving us the same books. I'm ready for genericness. I think that's 5th, 7th, 8th. I think we have 8th, right? King Edward Part the 8th. Part the 8th. We have also read Hero's Tale and Wild Elves, I believe. I really believe like we're seeing the same names over and over. Hero's Tale and the Wild Elves. Make sure things are a bit more aligned so I can actually see what I'm doing. I make sure so that way I can pay attention to time. Okay, so this is a totally useless excursion into a shop that did nothing. We read books. If we just go somewhat northwestish, we should reach another shop. If you want to go pure west now, we shall reach a shop. Somewhere right here. Somewhere obviously around here. Like this building right here. Or maybe a building to the north. Like this one. Okay! Follow the stupid shop around. It shall obviously lead to a general store. Where am I going? You're too far away. I said we probably should go to a bookshop at some point. Yes, Animal God. Kit with rulers. That's actually funny because both those were the two that we've seen in Privateer's Hold. Now, ES Animal God we don't have to do. But Etiquette with Rulers is actually one we haven't done. This was the one we did in Privateer's Hold before that I didn't get to show you guys. So, I shall reread this book even though I've read it. At least now I can finally read it, and that way now we're up to date with every book I've read. Yeah, it's a 4-page book. Let's do it. Get through this hellhole. Because the rules are so complex and the stakes are so high, many people blanch at the thought of speaking with a noble with a title. For starters, it is important to address them correctly. But just as no one likes to be misnamed, no one likes to be mistitled. The problem is that in High Rock, traditions of the peerage differ slightly from region to region. The base rules follow. There are 8 kingdoms in High Rock in the following regions: North Point, Daggerfall, Schornheim, Camlorn, Faerun, Evermore, Wayrest, and Jenna. If a woman is ruling one of these areas, she is called the Queen. The husband of a queen and the wife of a king is not necessarily of equal rank. They may not be kings and queens themselves. Their children are princes and princesses. Their grandchildren are also princesses and princesses. If a male ruler dies, his wife takes the title Dowager Queen, providing there is not a Dowager Queen already. Like all rules, there are exceptions. One notable exception took place recently in Daggerfall, when King Lysander died. In most regions, his wife Minisera would not have become Dowager Queen of Daggerfall, because Lysander's mother, the widow Nefolga, still lived. In Daggerfall, however, it is permissible for there to be 2 persons with the same title. Thus, both Nefolga and Minisera have the title of Dowager Queen. If a female ruler who does not share rank with her husband dies, there is no male equivalent to the word Dowager. Widowers or queen usually take another title, either a lesser family title or one given by their children. There have been a few men in the history of High Rock who have fallen from being addressed as king to being addressed as Mr. at the death of their wife. Other regions are ruled by dukes and duchesses, marquises or marquises, or marquises or marquinesses, counts or countesses, viscounts or viscountesses, barons or baronesses, and lords or ladies. This list is theoretically listed from highest to lowest rank, but the ruler of a territory outranks all other nobles, regardless of title. Dwynnen, for example, is a barony, and the baron or baroness of Dwynnen outrank any other noble in that territory, even dukes and counts. In theory, again, this may not be the case according to local custom, the eldest son or daughter of a noble takes their parents' highest family title below their parents. Thus, the Duke of Northmoor, who is also the Marquis of Calder, had a daughter who becomes the Marquis of Calder. Kings and queens are always addressed as Your Majesty in conversation. Dukes and duchesses, Your Grace. All other rulers may be addressed by their title and name, or Lord or Lady in their name. A few hints may be needed to determine exactly who rules a territory. You may rely on people on the streets to make reference to their ruler, but that may not be enough. After all, if the gossip involved Lord Beamish and the Viscountess Bird, neither or both could be ruler of the territory. I have found that a more predictable method is to pay some attention to the name of taverns and shops in the region. By tradition, many of these are called the Duke's Flats or the Lady's Provisions. This, more often than not, is the name of the ruler. If the shop's name is Lady Anissa's Provisions or Lord Butler's shop, Bots, that is probably the name of a local titled merchant, not the ruler. A store with an unnamed ruler's title has probably been around for some time, and does not bother to change its name with the new name of the ruler. In speaking with any person, a ruler or not, it's best to know what sort of person they are first. Rulers tend to stand on ceremony, and prefer the people addressing them to speak politely and differentially. There are, of course, exceptions to this, particularly among younger rulers, or rulers new to their positions. They may prefer a bolder, slangy style. If you are unsure of your ability to adopt your vocabulary for either an aristocrat or a criminal, choose to speak as plainly and directly as possible. You'll seldom charm someone by plain talk, but you'll also not alienate by mangled politeness or dated slang. Alienating a ruler, I need not tell you, can be the last mistake one can make. And yeah, there was just a bunch of pointlessness about rulers. Seriously, that was just total uselessness. The end of the book that we read, I don't even know why it's there. But it's there, we read it. We can say we read it. It's gone. At least now I finally read that book I read in Privateer's Hold a while back. Like 20 parts ago. And lost the 1/4. So now we can say we've read it. Always a good accomplishment. Part the 3. The Pig Children. Have we read that? I'm not sure. Nope, we haven't. Pig Children. Okie dokie. Piggies. Piggy. I want to read about Pig Children. So wait, let's read about the Pig Children. Because that's a book, apparently. Pretty short book, too. Okay. No one, not the oldest dark elf of Mount Daggerfall or the ancient sage of Solitude, no one can recall a time when the orc did not ravage our fair Tamriel. Whatever foul and pestilent danger of oblivion conjured them could scarcely have created a more constant threat to the well-being of the civilized races of Tamriel. Orcs are thankfully easy to recognize from other humanoids by their size. Commonly 40 pentons in height and 15,000 anglades in weight. Their brutal pig-like features and their stench. They are consistently belligerent, morally grotesque, intellectually moronic, and unclean. By all rights, the civilized races of Tamriel should have been able to purge our lands of their blight eras ago. But their ferocity, animal cunning, and curious tribal loyalty has made them inevitable as leeches in a stagnant pool. Tales of orcish barbarity precede written record. When Gystalica wrote of the Order of Diagna joining the armies of Daggerfall and Sentinel to hold the wicked orcs in their foul Orcsinium tower and burn all in First Era 950, she assumed that any reader would be aware of the savagery of the orcs. When the siege was completed 30 years later, after the death of many heroes including Gade and Shinji, and the destruction of Orcsinium scared the orc survivors throughout the Lothlorien Mountains, Justinia wrote, "The people rejoiced, for their ancient enemy was dispersed." Obviously, the orcs had been terrorizing the region of the Iliac Bay at least since the early years of the First Era. Yeah, orcs are terrible. That we kind of know, because look where they kind of hid themselves and we had to murder one. Pig people. Wait, no, that's the wrong thing to sell. Like the book and sell the book. Okay, and there's one more book off my chest I don't have to ever worry about reading again. Ain't this brilliant? We're cutting down the checklist. Here's Animal God. Special Flora of Tamriel. I don't think we read that one either. I'm happy because we're fighting stuff that I haven't read. Indeed, we haven't read this one either. Ha-ha! Look at that. We're finding books. Unlike last time where we found like a lot of stuff that we had read. We're actually finding some different books here. I'm happy because that means we can actually get this checklist down. So that's 3 pages. Okay, let's read it. Poppies, both black and white, can be found growing wild in the mountains of Hammerfell. Their sufficient pods are often the only nourishment of adventurers who find themselves in the wilderness without rations. It's said that the black and white poppies together have magical properties. When they are crushed and mixed with the milk of the agile-footed mountain goat, a potion that allows the user to glide safely above the ground can be made. Fire fern, a perennial herb native to Morrowind. The flowers are inconspicuous and often hidden. The glossy, evergreen foliage and flowers are resistant to the conditions of high heat and bright light. A petal from this plant placed under an adventurer's tongue will provide protection from the heat and fire found around the lava pits and streams found around Daggerfall. Dragon's tongue, common name for a fern found like a herb found in Black Marsh, is especially prolific around the area of Eutheris Swamp. It's a beautiful wildflower. Its name comes from the fire-red fronds that protect its golden flower. As pretty as it is a deadly poison to most living beings and needs to be avoided by adventurers. It is said, however, that Argonians can pick the plant and use the sap derived from its roots as an enchantment to their endurance. Domica redwort is a herb grown by many residents of Valenwood for their beautiful and showy flowers. They attain a height of about 3 feet and have feathery leaves. The flowers are usually bright red. In addition to their beauty, they are said to have magical abilities to enhance the appearance of anyone who carries or wears one of the flowers. Ironwood nut. This rare nut comes from the ironwood trees which grow deep in the forest of Skyrim. The wood of these trees is as hard as the metal from which they are named. There's a very rare black ironwood tree that is said to produce a nut which is very succulent and is believed to enhance the strength of the adventurer who is able to crack the shell. The ginkgo leaves, which are found along the banks of rivers and lakes in Hammerfell, are most inconspicuous. Only its peculiar half-moon shape makes it noticeable. It is very sweet and tasty. Legend has it that when mixed properly with the pulp of the aloe plant, the potion has the ability to increase one's stamina for a short while. The Simoleus fern can be found in the swamps of the Black Marsh. The fronds of this plant are the light green and some quite delicate. Picking a frond can be very difficult, but once retrieved, it can be used to put an enemy to sleep for a short while by passing it under his nose. Arrowroot is a thick, rubbery tuber that can be found in the province of Valenwood. The plant is very difficult to find, as its above-ground foliage is very meager and scrawny, but the arrowroot itself can be most beneficial to the gatherer, as it has magical properties. The paste made from grinding the root is very tasty, and can improve the user's accuracy with bow and arrow. Nightshade is reputed to be a very poisonous herb. However, the variety found in many parts of Elsewhere is cherished by Khajiits, who have followed the career path of thievery. Many Khajiits will tuck a piece of nightshade inside their armor to increase their abilities to skulk, hide, and become invisible. So yeah, basically a bunch of plants, none of which are in Daggerfall. So yeah, totally useless to us. Ain't that brilliant? Well, we read it. I don't think we benefited from it, but we read it. Okay, let's look at our books again. The first scroll of Bandar. Is there a second scroll of Bandar? I need to actually see this. The first scroll of... I want to know if this is like a part of something, or is this... Let's see here. I'm trying to see. Yeah, it's only one book. Okay, so yeah, this is the entirety of all that we get in Daggerfall. It's supposed to be like a multiple part series in lore wise, but this is the only part we even see. So right, time to buy this book, as it's one of those 20-something books we need. And every one of these gets me closer to 20. We're losing so much money on this deal. We're probably gonna have to do more quests to get more money to finish up this book series, aren't we? Lots of pages. God. Okay, let's get through this. What follows is a translation of the first fragments from a series of Valium scrolls found in 3 alabaster jars sealed in a cave. The discoverer was a nomad wanderer somewhere on the shores of Lake Vreed in the province of Ellisleia. I can neither vouch for nor deny its authenticity or veracity, only that the scrolls, as such, do exist. Read and judge for yourself. Bundar, the legend. Thief, warlock, shadow master, ruthless assassin, undying avenger. Dark god, robber baron, mastermind of nefarious plots. All these things and more are the legendary Bundar, he who is called the bandit god. But what is the truth? Bundar, the man is much more simple and complex being. I pen this tale as I slowly die of old age and a mortifying arrow wound. I cannot decide if the truth will add to or subtract from the legend that is Bundar, nor if the original Bundar would want the truth to be known. Therefore I will leave this tale hidden when I am done and gone, and let fate, which was ever Bundar's true master motivator, decide. I was a child of 12 seasons when I first met Bundar. Orphan of a slaver raid during one of my many inter-provincial border wars, living by my quick wits, nimble fingers, and the grace of Lady Luck, in the back alleys and byways of my birth city, I had just liberated a loaf of bread and a few small apples from a local street vendor in the bazaar on the edge of the city near the tumbled outer wall, and had withdrawn down an ill-lit alley to feast on my bounty when I was beset by an older band of my ilk. The older and lazier variety, which were wont to engage in the easier and less dangerous art of stealing from the stealers. There were 5 of the bully boys who had decided that they were more deserving of my booty than I, and they were beating me half to death with stabs in between bites and laughter at the time. Lying on the ground, curled up into as tight as a ball as I could manage, trying to protect my head and groin, I heard a quiet voice ask if they were not more suited to go down the wharf and take food from your brother rats, or would you care to try your tricks and gain a bit more your size and number? Since my companions had been somewhat otherwise engaged with the newcomer, and had for the nonce ceased thumping, kicking, and cuff at me, I looked up to see a dark shadow of boots, cloak, and chainmail hood leaning against the wall at the end of the alleyway. The others, being what they were, took this as a challenge to their manhood, an easy prey to their superior number with a promise of coin of the realm as added reward. Else the first part would have been overlooked. The leader of my band of playmates suggested that the stranger take a leap off the mentioned wharf, unless he wished to join me there when they were done with their evening meal. Having drawn chuckles and courage from his underlings, he then proceeded forward, port. I'm not exactly sure what followed, but within a short period of time, lead bully was lying in the dirt with a thrown dagger in his chest. Number 2 bully had lost 3 teeth to a boot. I still carried them in a leather pouch as a keepsake. And number 3 bully was brought short by his own staff applied forcibly between his toes. The 2 big ones. Bullies 4 and 5 thought better of the entertainment and departed rapidly for parts unknown. Bundar picked me up, dusted me off, and dragged me round to a near tavern, where we shared a meal and a mug. I attempted to thank him for saving my life. How can I ever repay this favor, I asked. His reply was short, to the point, and has driven my actions in life ever since. The proper way to repay a favor is not to. Pass it on instead. Things have not progressed well along the lines of health, wealth, and welfare for me until that point in my life came upon a sudden change that night. I later learned, along with many other things, that Bundar had decided to take a direct, immediate interest in me, because my situation reminded him very much of the bad start his own life had taken. and the odds he had faced to survive it. On that night, he took me under his wing as a kind of apprentice. He saw to it that I learned weaponcraft and stealth, that I learned to read and write. He took me along when he traveled for the next year. I served as messenger, valet, pack mule, lookout, cook, many things. I saw other towns, cities, races, provinces, and broadened my view and knowledge of the world far beyond belief. He taught me both morals and cold-hearted ruthlessness, and when and how to apply each as the ethics of the situation required. At the end of the year, he gave me a good dagger and decent horse, the 3 teeth, and leave, nay, command, to make my own way in the world from that day forward. But to remember all I'd been given, and to attempt to pass such a gift to another when and where I should find need and opportunity. That I have done, several times, as I have seen he has also, and as I hope my various charges have after me, and they theirs. Thus has the legendary blunder been seen time and again in various lands of our world, at numerous and the same times, and days of need. Thus also in the description so very hard to obtain and track, for in truth there have been, and continue to be, many blunders in the world. The most valuable lesson he ever taught me was that for evil to triumph required not so much that many bad men to do wrong, as for one good man to fail to do what was right. We only hope that combined and concentrated efforts have produced enough single men and women that will not fail to do the right thing, regardless of the current local morals, laws, religion, creed, or lore of coin of the realm. The legend grows still, of the dark avenging blade on the wings of night that make no sound, the patron saint of the lone wolf, the 1,000 eyes and ears, the 100 arms disrespectful of time or distance, undying, master of disguise, man of 1,000 faces, shapes and sizes, gentle, rough-edged, gay, stern, all the mystery of a man unknown and undying. Not a single man, nor God at all, but a string of seeds sown upon the land and left to grow into a forest. How to reconcile this truth with the tales of cruelty and the gangs of blunders or bandits? Some are jealous thieves, who take the name only for the cloak of mystery, and hope of hiding in its shadow. Others are tales twisted or reversed, by those justly served by blunders, unfettered by technicalities of law and custom. Some are backsliders drawn of their old ways. Many of the things that any one blunder cannot answer for, as others did the deeds in the same name. Some are tales of fishwives, made up to scare the child into doing what is wanted. Some are left as part of the mystery. That's both cloak and shield of the hidden purposes. A case where the fear of the tale serves to save the needs of art and action. But, by and large, the true blunder is a string of beings taught to act upon what they believe in, and stand to take the yoke of needed action upon their own shoulders. Don't fight if you can avoid blood or war, but if you must make war, do so with all your heart and might. Leave it at threats if threats are enough, but never make threats if you're unwilling to carry to conclusion if required. Use all the arts of hand, but ever keep the true purpose in mind. Stand tall, but never forget how to bend your knee to help another. Note, the rest of the scrolls are tales and tellings of various parts of the legend. Some have passed from bard to bard. Some are the true tales that lie in the ballads. These fragments are still to be translated and debated. This fragment, however, contains the kernel of the revelation, and the true source of the questions surrounding the blunder legend. What say you, reader? For myself, I do not know. But God or unrelated string of linked souls as laid out here, I do know that blunder is a force in our land and lives, and one that gives us hope to many that needs it, and a pause to many I despise. Akron, scribe of Daggerfall in the year Second Era 24. So probably something very old and totally irrelevant, because I've never heard this blunder dude. Yeah. Gotta love these totally irrelevant stories. They make me feel like I'm doing so much. Like I'm actually doing part of the lore. Well, at least we read it. And we're losing lots of money. That's good. Wait, that's not good. And I equipped the wrong sword. Yep. That's obvious. I'm seeing bad tats, broken tats. That's good. This is part of the plan. Part of the plan which shall eventually result in me getting a ebony daikatana. Or whatever is the equivalent of the best weapon in Daggerfall. It might be that Orcish or Daedric materials that we saw last time. Follow the usurper. What is that? King Edward part the 7th? And follow the usurper we have, right? Yep. But we don't have possibly part 7. I don't believe so. Let me look. Let's see here. We have part 12. We have part 8. 12 and 8. Remember these numbers. Numbers are not my strong suit for this. 12 and 8. Oh look. Biography of Queen Breens of Volume 3. We just missed Volume 2, aren't we? Part 1, Part 4. Part 3, Part 10, Part 5. No Part 7. And also the Asylum Ball, which is something I don't recognize. Let's actually buy that one if we can. I said eventually I'm going to run out of gold, and that'll be where we have to, like, get more. But at least this is most of the stories. So yeah, it's 5 pages. Please don't tell me I actually just went on a whim and didn't... Nope, I actually got one. Okay, so this is one we haven't read. That's good! Another book to finish up. My great-great-uncle was a warder in an asylum in Torval. Maybe he was my great-great-great-uncle. It was quite a long time ago. And this is a story that's been passed down my family from his generation to mine. Perhaps it's purely acrophitical. That's pretty much almost every story in Daggerfall, isn't it? But when I was told it, it was whispered in such a way that it was meant to be taken seriously. Not having 8 children of my own to whisper it to, and being in some need of gold, I have elected to publish my story. The asylum my great-great-uncle worked in was apparently very posh. Only the right class of lunatics were admitted. Eccentric, daft ladies filled the asylum's tapestried and gilded halls. There was a time of great excitement when rumor began that the unhinged emperor in Tamriel, Pelagius III, was transferring there from a resort in Valenwood. When the rumor became a reality, the asylum went into nice, calm, restive chaos. Pelagius was given an entire wing of the asylum for his own use, for, though he was madder than a jackal, he was still his terrible majesty, the Emperor of Tamriel. The Emperor was remarkably well behaved, my great-great-uncle supposedly asserted. Of course, he did not have to face the commoners, who came on all sorts of pretenses to gawk at their overlord, Balloon. When one of the warders, not I have been assured my uncle, forgot himself and let his terrible majesty know that people had been there to see him, excited, he made up his mind right then and there to have a ball. A huge party with musicians, dancing, and dinner, right at the lunatic asylum, or precisely in his wing of the asylum. Rumors of the Emperor's interest in holding a ball spread through Torval, and eventually it reached the ears of the Empress Regent Karitra, Pelagius' dear wife, and the Imperial City. Eager to make her husband happy, she sent a caravan laden with gold to the asylum, so a ball might be held befitting the imperial dignity. The Emperor picked a date for the ball, and preparations began immediately. The old asylum walls were beautifully decorated, but needed cleaning. A pit had to be constructed to house the orchestra. Servants were cooking, and serving the food had to be hired. Gold and ebony candelabras and matching chandeliers were ordered. The old rugs were destroyed, and new rugs embroidered with gems were weaved. Lists of guests had to be compiled, reconsidered, and recompiled. The emperor knew that the guest list had to be very exclusive. He relied on his advisors to tell him who was alive, who was dead, and who was imaginary. The party was set to begin at 9 o'clock. At 6, the hairdresser he had hired from Torval finished his imperial coiffure. At 7, he was fully dressed in the robes he had offered for the ball. Voluminous black silk and piled velvet crusted with red diamonds. At 8, he walked down the newly reconstructed staircase to supervise the final preparations. The lighting of the candles, the opening of the wine, the murder of the first course. At 9 o'clock, he took his seat at the facsimile throne he had ordered and awaited his first guests. At 9:30, his advisor, seeing the royal eyes begin to glaze over with madness, said, "Your Imperial Majesty surely knows that it's not fashionable to arrive at any ball for at least an hour after the desired time, yes?" The Emperor just stared. At 10:30, the Emperor called for some food and wine, and sat on his throne, looking at the open door, eating. 30 minutes later, he ordered the orchestra to begin playing. For the next 3 hours, they played gaily for the empty, candlelit ballroom. At 1 o'clock, the Emperor announced his intention to retire for the evening. My uncle is one of the warders who assisted his terrible majesty up the staircase. Halfway up to his room, Pelagius threw himself on the floor in hysteria, screaming and laughing, ordering more wine. My mother was good at this part of the story, rolling her eyes and shrieking, "More wine! More wine! Wine!" And in short, imagine that he was possessed by all the revelers at his party that never was. 2 days later, he was still not better. He had cut himself, and those who had tried to grapple him horribly with the red diamonds of his robe. Eventually, it was decided that the Torval Asylum was not equipped to deal with a lunatic of his severity, and he was sent to a more secure location in the Black Marsh. It was only 3 months later, my uncle heard, that the Emperor had died. One of my uncle's duties was to clear out the personal property of the inmates after their death. Being primarily landed nobility, the personal property was often quite extensive. Several years after the asylum ball, my uncle was called to clear out the apartment of a duchess, whose chief eccentricity was a propensity to pilfer. Kleptomania, I believe it's called. Locked away in a secret door in her desk, protected by a trap armed with barbed needle, was a variety of jewels, piles of gold, and 5 large stacks of beautifully engraved invitations, signed in the Emperor's childlike handwriting. Oh, well, that's brilliant. So, yeah. Kleptomaniac ruined everything. We have learned a lot. Specifically, crazy people are crazy. See the crazy stuff we learned? Vampires of the Iliac Bay Part 2, but where's Part 1? I actually was curious about that one, if there was actually a Part 1. There is? I don't know where it is. Like, every time I see it, I always see Part 2. That's gonna be torturous. Watch this, it's gonna be like one of the remaining ones. And it's gonna be like everywhere we go. Part 2. Okay, so I guess it's back to trying to figure out where else to go. How are we doing for time? Do we have time? We have plenty of time. We have all time. My god, I hate time right now. Pawnbrokers is north. Let's go west. like this way somewhat. And this should lead to another general store, called the Odd Bajuri or whatever. Unless, of course, that's a jewelry place. Yeah. Okay, let's start going south, because we have shops down there that I don't know what they do. That could be bad, as that means they could not be jungle stores. But they might also hold hidden treasures. Like this obvious bookstore. This could have been useful. We found a bookstore, people. If I can find the books. That's a random room. Where are the books? We are in a bookstore. There's no books. This is problematic. Where are the books? Books? No books. Beds? No books. Seriously, where are the books? They've decided to hide all the books. Well, this is a weird shop. It's not even a guy to sell stuff to. Okay. Wait, just like a... Oh my god, it's a freaking library. We found a freaking library, people. There's a freaking library all this time. Okay, so notes for Redguard history. That's something I don't recognize. Yeah, let me make sure, but I don't believe notes for Redguard history is part of that list. And we found also a library, which means we don't have to buy books anymore. Why didn't we find this before? I mean, this could have really helped me. I mean, it's nice to have some of them on hand, but, yeah. I really could have used this, like, a long time ago. Biographical note. Destry Malarg was a well-known historian and translator of Old Redguard verse. Born as simply Destry in the city-state of Rehad in the 20th year of the Third Era. At the age of 19, he went to the Imperial City to study. There were few Redguards who had been to the Imperial Province at the time, and it may be that he took the last name Malarg in order to assimilate with the Breton, Nordic, and Dark Elf cultures he encountered there. When he died 94 years later, he left numerous unfinished histories and untranslated verse. Very few of this fragmented work has found its way out of collections. What follows is an unmailed letter to Malarg's publishers in the Imperial City. The insights into the man who put the oral traditions of the Redguards to paper impressed me enough to seek its publication. Melius, it should be noted, was Melius Kane, Malarg's publisher in the Imperial City. Voon. Redguard's first scholar. The Imperial University. Melius. This is the outline of my final chapter for the series of Hammerfell Heroes. I condensed Dandel's storytelling. I have my notes, but the story gets long with all the quotes. She puts a lot of dialogue in her storytelling. I'm amazed that the old stories about the Five Swords keeps cropping up. It's been 1,000 years since Hellion's time, yet people continue to believe in the stories. The wagon master sat with me after listening to a story and smoked a pipe with me. In discussing the story, he said that his storyteller used to say that one of the Five Swords survived the closing of the Goblin Gate, and that is hidden and is yet hidden here in Hammerfell. It was the least of the five, but the story has it that it seeds, and modern blade magical or ebony by several orders of magnitude. Of course, I take this with a grain of salt, since an ebony weapon is unparalleled in its keen cunning ability, and personally, I can't imagine a weapon doing more damage than a claymore of firestorm or a saber of lifesteal. Probably a daikatana of lifesteal and firestorm would be more amazing. But funny, because I recognize both those spells. Those are the two spells I used a lot in Arena. Wow. Doesn't that feel like memory right there? Firestorm and lifesteal. Those were the two. Those are the two original ones. Before we got paralyzation, those were the original two right there. Dendel even believed countryside outside of Skaven and one of the halls of the virtues of war. There are still people who follow the old ways and come from a Shenai or a spirit sword. And collecting these stories, I once thought I was seeing a Shenai be informed by an old hall master, but the thing, if it was a spirit sword, was so faint that even the sword shape was questionable. I didn't want to insult the old man, so I claimed I saw it too. But if it was a Shenai, I can't imagine it possibly used as a real weapon. Here's my outline of the news story. At the time of the story, Hammerfell is fully occupied by Red Guards. All the old cities are dwarves, but one, the ghost city of the dwarf home, are now the cities of today's modern Hammerfell. A second invasion of the giant goblins comes. Hammerfell is unprepared, except for the few faithful followers, all used in the rural halls of virtue. Helen, being the only Ansai, rallies the armies of Hammerfell. After a defeat, he brings back the old ways by telling each warrior to read the Book of Circles. The army fights the goblins to a standstill, but things look bleak, just as in Dived's song. Somehow the goblins keep being resupplied, both with arms and troops. Eventually the army of Hammerfell will lose. The old master of Howland's Hall and the Virtues of War has an ancient copy of David's will and testament, and reads it to Howland. It tells him that the 5 swords aren't lost, just hidden and well guarded in 5 caves. Oh boy, a fetch quest. Each cave is home to a master guardian, one of the old blind Ansai, and also a maze. According to the will, Derek must, along with a virtuous companion of pure heart, enter the cave, defeat each Ansai master, and retrieve their sword. Dendel went into great detail here. It seems that each master had an outstanding trait. One Catrice possessed feline grace and had become very cat-like. Another read icy calm was something very much like an ice golem, which we have seen. On each blade is inscribed part of an intricate message on how to use the power of the swords combined. Derek scours the rural halls for brothers of the blade and maidens of the spirit sword to accompany him in his quests. He finally, one by one, finds his companions and wins each sword. They learn from the blades, and together wield the force of the 5 swords to seal the rent in space-time that the goblins have made, and from which springs their invasion. Helen's companions avoided blinding by the magic swords by hurling the giant swords together into the void, and sealing forever the giant goblins in the void between their world and ours. The land is saved, and Helen and his companions, 3 women and 2 men, become Ansai and restore the teachings of Frendar Herdling to Hammerfell. That's the story in brief. I welcome any comments for you or one of the other editors. One other concern of mine, I understand that you are considering using a better-known writer, Ythura Abuk or Kamir Kstrom, to write the stories of research. I can understand that better-known writer may mean a few more copies of books will be sold, but that should not be your only concern. Abuk and Kstrom, while fine writers and poets, will need a lecture on the true history of the Red Guards. Even if you are willing to pay me to do that, you will have to acknowledge that the books will take longer to write than if you just allowed me to do it. Just something to consider when you make your decision. I hope this letter finds you, your consort, and children to good health and humor. Yours faithfully, Destry Malarg. I don't know what in God's name I just read, people. I really that just confused me entirely. It was words on paper, and we read it. Satisfied? I sure am not. Here's Queen Brynza something. Where's that, volume 2? Isn't there like... How many parts are there in the biography of Queen Brynza? Queen Brynza. I can figure out how to spell it. Daggerfall. Okay, there exists 3 books. 3 blade books. And guess what? I think we have all 3. Because this is part 2. We have part 1 and part 3 in our inventory. We can get rid of 2 books. Yay! Let's see here. Biography of Barinza, part 1 and part 3. Let me make sure I have them. Biography of Queen Barinza, volume 1. Volume 3. And not the Hero's Tale. Nutskull's Guide to Nymphs. Volume 2. Look at that. This is brilliant. We actually got something we can actually finish up that's a lengthy book series. So yeah, this is probably going to take me to like the end of this part. But let's get through this. Okay, this is only 3 parts. Okay. Late in the Second Era, heir, a girl child, Barinza, which we know as Queen of Wayrest, was born to the rulers of Mournhold and Morrowind. She was reared in all the luxury and security benefiting a royal dark elf child until she reached 5 years of age. At that time, His Excellency Tiber Septim demanded that the decadent rulers of Morrowind yield to him and institute imperial reforms. Trusting to their vaunted magic, they imprudently refused, and much of Morrowind was laid waste in the conflict that ensued. The little Princess Barinza and her nurse were found among the wreckage. General Symmachus, himself a dark elf and born in Mournhold, suggested to His Excellency that the child might someday be valuable, and she was placed with a loyal supporter who had recently retired from the Imperial Army. On retirement, Sven Anderson had been made Baron of Blackmoor, a small town in central Skyrim. Baron Sven and his wife reared her as their own daughter, saw to it that she was educated appropriately, and more importantly, that she was taught the imperial virtues of piety. In short, she was made fit to take her place as member of the new ruling class of Morrowind. The girl Barinza grew in beauty, grace, and intelligence. She was very short-tempered, a joy to her adopted parents and their 5 young sons, who loved her as their eldest sister. Other than appearance, she differed from young girls of her class only in that she had a strong empathy for the woods and fields, and was willing to escape her childhood duties to wander there. Barinza was happy and content until her 16th year, where a wicked orphan stable boy, with whom she had befriended out of pity, told her she had overheard a conspiracy of her dear guardian. Baron Sven, said the boy, had dealt with a Redguard visitor to sell her as a concubine in Rehad, as no Nord or Breton would marry her on account of her black skin, and no Dark Elf would have her because of her foreign upbringing. "Whatever shall I do?" the poor girl wept, trembling, for she had been brought up in innocence and trust, and it never occurred to her that her friend would lie to her. The wicked boy, who was called Straw, said that she must run away if she valued her virtue, but he would come with her and protect her. Sorrowfully, Barinza agreed to his plan, and that very night, Barinza disguised herself as a boy, and the pair escaped to the nearby city of Whiterun. After a few days there, they managed to get places as guards in a disputable merchant caravan. The caravan was heading east by side roads, in a dishonest attempt to elude the lawful toils charged on the highway. Thus they eluded pursuit until they reached the city of Riften, where they ceased their travels. They felt safe in Riften, close as they were to the Morrowind border, so dark elves are commonly seen. The story of how Barinza finally came to the throne of Mournhold after this fitful start is told in Volume 2 of the biography of Queen Barinza, which is what we have next, right here. The first volume of the series told the story of Barinza's origin, heiress to the throne of Mournhold, until her father's king rebelled against His Excellency Tiber Septim and brought ruin to the province of Morrowind. Due to the benevolence of the Emperor, the child Berenza was not destroyed with her parents, but reared by the Baron Sven of Blackmoor. She grew beautiful, pious, and trusting in his care. This trust was exploited by a wicked orphan stable boy at Baron Sven's estate, who with lies tricked her into fleeing Blackmoor with him. After many adventures on the road, they settled in Riften, a Skyrim city on the border of Morrowind. The stable boy Straw was not altogether evil. He did love Berenza in his own selfish fashion, and the lie was the only way he could think that he might have her. She, of course, felt only friendship for him, but he was hopeful that she would change her mind. He wanted to buy a small farm and settle down in marriage, but his earnings were barely enough to feed and shelter them. After only a short time in Riften, Straw fell in with a bold villain of a Khajiit thief named Theris, who proposed that they rob the Imperial Commandant's house. Theris said that he had a client, a traitor to the Empire, who would pay well for the information they would find there. Berenza happened to overhear this plan and was appalled. She stole from their rooms, and walked the streets of Riften in desperation, torn between loyalty to the Empire and her friend. In the end, loyalty to the Empire prevailed over personal friendship, and she approached the Commandant's house, revealed her true identity, and warned him of her friend's plan. The Commandant listened to her tale, praised her courage, and assured her that no harm would come to her. General Symmachus had been scouring the countryside and searched for her since her disappearance had just arrived in Riften. Hot in pursuit, he took her into his custody and informed her that, far from being sold, she was to be instated as Queen of Mournhold as soon as she turned 18. Until that time, she was to live with the Imperial family in the new Imperial city, where she would learn of the Imperial government and make the acquaintance of people of importance. And so it came to pass. In the Imperial city, Berenza became great friends with Tiber Septim during the last years of his reign. Tiber's heir Pelagius also came to love her as a sister. The balance of the day praised her beauty, chastity, wit, and learning. On her 18th birthday, the entire Imperial city turned out to watch her procession back to Mournhold. Sorrowful as they were at her departure, all knew that she was ready to be the glorious sovereign of the new king of Mournhold. And then we have part 3, which is down here. There we are. Only a few pages. Berenza was welcomed kindly by the Emperor Tiber Septim and his family, who treated her like a daughter during her stay in the newly built Imperial city. After several happy months there, learning her duties as a regent under the Emperor, Symmachus escorted her to Mournhold, where she took up her duties as queen of her people, under his wise guidance. Gradually they came to love one another, and were married and crowned in a splendid ceremony, at which the Emperor himself officiated. After several hundred years of marriage, a son, Helseth, was born to the royal couple, amid rejoicing and prayers to the goddess, who had last blessed their marriage. Although it was not known at the time, it was shortly before this blessed event that the Staff of Chaos was stolen from its hiding place deep within the Mournhold mines by a clever bard known only as Nightingale. Wait, what? What's this have to... The Staff of Chaos? Nightingale? Okay. So something to do with... The Staff of Chaos apparently came from... Mournhold? From some bard and somehow it got to Jagathorn's hands? 8 years after Helseth's birth, Berenza bore a daughter, Maggia, named for Symmachus' mother, and the royal couple's joy was complete. Alas, shortly after that, relations with the Empire mysteriously deteriorated, leading to much civil unrest in Mournhold. After fruitless inquiries and attempts of reconciliation, in desperation, Berenza took her young children and traveled to Imperial City herself to seek the Emperor's ear. Symmachus remained in Mournhold. During her audience with the Emperor, Varinza, through her magical arts, came to realize, to her horror and dismay, that the so-called Emperor was an imposter, none other than the Bard Nightingale who had stolen the Staff of Chaos. Wait, what? Okay, so apparently the Bard Nightingale was Jaeger Tharn, it had to be. So, Jaeger Tharn disguised himself as a bard and stole the Staff of Chaos from some mines in Mournhold. Okie dokie. Exercising great self-control, she concealed this realization from him. That evening, news came that Symmachus had been killed in battle, and that Mournhold had been taken by the rebels. Varinza knew not where to seek help when the knock sounded on her door. It was Edwia, king of Wayrest, an old friend of Uriel Septim and Symmachus. Oh, so this is how Wayrest comes into the whole picture. I was going to say, we had all this stuff about Mournhold. How did Varinza get tied into Wayrest at all? He comforted her, pledged his friendship, and confirmed her suspicions that the Emperor was indeed the imposter, and none other than Jaeger Tharn, the Imperial Battle Mage. Tharn had supposedly retired from public work, and put his assistant, Rhea Silmain, in his stead. Oh, well, ain't that brilliant? We know all about this, because this is basically telling us the plot of Arena. Alright, we found the plot of Arena in the book. About time we finally found that in the book. Rhea was indeed... As it seemed, Tharn had never left the Imperial City. Rhea was indeed dead, but her ghost had appeared in Idaria's dreams, just like my dreams, and revealed that the true Emperor had been kidnapped by Tharn, imprisoned in an alternate plane. I thought she said Ricky was the last hope! She lied! This pretty lady lied to everyone! Look at this! Look at this evidence! Blatant evidence right here that this pretty lady lied to Ricky! That's terrible! That pretty invisible ghost lady lied to Ricky and told her that he was the last and best hope. Tharn had then used the Staff of Chaos to kill her when she attempted to warn the Council of his nefarious plot. And that awesome intro sequence for the Lord of the Scrolls and blasting music. Oh no. Anyway. Together, Edwia and Varinza plotted to gain the imposter's confidence and unmask him with the help of another friend of Rhea's, who is currently in prison, but to whose dreams she had access, and who possessed great, albeit untapped, potential. I wonder who that maniac might be, the absolutely insane person who is locked in prison. Varinza charmed and befriended the fake Emperor. So apparently this is going on during the plot of Arena, and it's like exactly what's kind of going on behind the scenes that we didn't see. By reading his secret diary, she learned that he had broken the staff into 8 pieces and hidden them. Oh, so she's the one. So that's how Rhea figured that out. Okay. She managed to obtain a copy of the key to Rhea's friend's cell and bribed the guard to leave it within the cell, as if by accident. Wait, I thought Rhea caused the key to appear. Yeah. The champion, whose name was unknown even to Varinza and Edwia, made his escape through a shift gate Rhea had opened in a dark rat-infested corner of the prison, where the cowardly goblin guards feared the venture. It took Varinza several months to learn the hiding places of all 8 staff pieces, through snatches of overheard conversation and rare glimpses of the diary. Once she had the vital information, she and Edwia fled to Wayrest, where they managed to stave off the sporadic efforts of Tharn's henchmen to obtain revenge. Tharn, whatever else might be said of him, was no one's fool, save perhaps Varinza's, and he concentrated most of his efforts to track it down and destroying the great champion. As all now know, the brave, tireless, and forever nameless champion, also known as Ricky, was successful in reuniting the Staff of Chaos. Nameless? They didn't even put my name in the book! I feel insulted, they didn't put my name in the book! With it, he destroyed Tharn and rescued the great Emperor Uriel Septim VII. Following the restoration, a great state memorial service that was held for Symmachus in the Imperial City, befitting the man who had served the Septim family for so long and so well, Berenza and the good Edwia had come to care deeply for one another, and had married in the year after their flight from Imperial City. So yeah, Berenza's never met Ricky, even though this whole thing whereby she kind of really helped him without realizing it. Yeah, so she kind of had like Ria working through her, but really we're getting information from Berenza apparently. So yeah, Berenza had a lot to do with Arena. She's another remnant from Arena. Wow, okay then. Her children remained with her, and as a regent was appointed to rule Mournhold in her absence. She planned to return after Edwia's death. He was elderly when they wed, so she knew it. That event, alas, could not be far off, as the elves reckon time. Well, he's still alive right now. She's in Daggerfall right now. Well, Wayrest. Oh yeah, it's right. We don't have the library books. Dummy me. How are we doing for time, by the way? Actually, we're doing pretty good in time. I could go back, I could sell these 2 books. Why? Because I need money. And 2 random books to sell? I can't pass that up. About time we actually get to sell some stuff. Because I've had way too many books on me and it's getting bigger and bigger. If I can figure out my way out of this maze of doors. Seriously, everywhere looks the same. Oh my god, there's a guy! You weren't part of the original one. Where did I come from? I don't know where I was. Yeah. We just want to go northeast, kinda. Mostly east. With a little bit north. Maybe like this. Then we kind of blunder this way. And we should see a market right up here. Ta-da! I'm not even going to bother with the general store. I'm just here to sell my goods. Specifically 2 random books. Anything with Berenza. Biography of Queen Berenza, Volume 1. And where's Volume 3? I feel like I was totally ripped off, but, well, there's some books. Now we just need to find the Lyceum again. Okay, slightly west and then go south. Well, mostly west. Maybe I didn't do good at oh no, it's right in front of me. Aha, here we are. We have found our library. There's many pointless books as doorways as there were before. I managed to find my way out of the shop. I didn't mean to do that. Hi. Guy, keep going outside! I didn't mean to leave this door open. Sorry, dude. Yeah, apparently there are 2 library areas. And you're just kind of sitting here reading. That's cool. You can read. I'll read too. Confessions of a Thief. I think I've read that one. See? We're getting a lot of books here, people. Lots of books. Honestly, I think this will be really, really helpful in getting us those last books. But yeah, that's the... We've also read the entirety of a series. Ain't that sweet? At least one of the series. Confessions of a Thief. Only 3 pages too. Okay! I'm a thief! Now, don't get me wrong. I ain't saying this out of pride, but I ain't ashamed of my occupation neither. Thieves got a perfect right to exist in the Empire. People say we're dishonest. Of course, those people are usually either merchants or priests, which really slays me. Sort of the snake calling the worm legless. Rulers like us, crime in moderation is good for the economy. The trick is to keep it at a good even pace, with a well-timed lull and a minor wave to keep the fat bottoms from becoming complacent. Of course, stupid but talented thieves will keep stealing, empty their pockets, and steal some more. This ain't good for no one. That's where the guilds come in. A thieves' guild is what they call a crime regulator. We protect each other and punish the clumsy and greedy. The kings depend on us to keep the amateurs out of business. Yeah, occasionally a king will come down on us. I've even seen my thieves' guildmaster get himself stuck in prison once or twice. Some cohort of mine said their first guildmaster got himself hanged. Then the thieves' guild has to get foul on the king. And let someone who knows tell you, the results ain't pretty. I got into the guild the way I've seen most thieves do it. How do thieves get into the guild? It was a few years back when that bully Jagat was sitting on the throne, only everyone thought he was the emperor. Oh, well, that's a familiar time to me. My parents' farm turned into 8 acres of dust and rock, and they threw me and my brothers out. I was always a skinny thing, but by the time I made it to the closest town, I was a good deal more skinnier. Just because the town had some dirt that plants could grow on, didn't make them much richer than my folks were. I tried to get all kinds of jobs, but the hungrier and more raggeder I got, the quicker anyone who might have work would kick me out. When the rainy season finally came, it was like a sea, and I didn't have nowhere to stay. Luckily, I found the unlocked cellar door. Turns out that the owner of the house slept like old dogs, cause I robbed them blind. And I tripped into things like I was the blind one, and they never woke up. I sold all the stuff at dirty potters I knew, and spent the next 2 days living like a potentate. Then I got my first visit from the local thieves guild. I remember what the guy looked like, but not exactly what he said. Something like, "Hey kid, if you want to steal in these parts, you're going to have to join the guild. Otherwise, I or someone like me is going to have to break your skinny arms so you can't steal." I've known some people who've refused membership at this guild and kept on stealing anyhow. I've often broken someone of their arms. As for me, this was my first offer that I'd had in a career since my pa told me that if I didn't milk the cow, he'd rip my head off. In comparison, this guy at the tavern was almost a gentleman. I agreed right away. Sure, I had to prove my worth in the guild before I could join, and even now. But having 2 working arms is only part of the benefit. They trained me, taught me, and kept me out of prison. How many other guilds can boast a forgery expert on the premises? So next time you call in some swindling merchant or usurious priest a thief, think about it. There's an honor among thieves. I should know. So yeah, thieves are better than merchants. That's what I said today, people. Take it from a thief. Most trustworthy people ever, right? Totally. I believe that. I'll vouch for a thief. Mysticism we read. E.S. the Sage. King Edward Part the 9th is one I don't have, but I don't have the other parts. I think A Tale of Kieran I read in the last part. Yep, I did. But it's like I'm missing King Edward Part 3, I think. I have... Like, let me actually look. What parts of King Edward I have? 8. 12. That's 7. Wait, isn't that 8? Do I have 2 8? Oh no, that's 7. My mistake. 7 and 8 and 12. 7, 8, and 12, and we've seen 9 now. But we don't have, of course, everything else to go with it. Part 1, Part 4, 1, 4, 7, 8, 12, 1, 3, 7, 8, 12, 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 12. One, 3, 4, 10, 7, 8, 12. Wait, no. 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, 12. 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. Yeah, so we don't have 9. So we have 1, we're missing 2, 3, 4, 5. We're missing sets. The 3 sets. 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So we're missing those 3 parts from being able to really read this. And that's if this part remains here. Part 9. So we need parts 3, 6, and 9? No, 11. 3, 6, and 11, but we could also lose 9. So it's just basically the ones at 3 and then 11 for some reason, because why not? Is it just me or does it change every single time? I swear it's changed every single time we click on it. I think Etiquette with Rulers we read earlier today. Let me even read it again. Let me look at it. Just make sure. Yep. I've read it. But Invocation of Azura doesn't look familiar. So let's actually try that one. So Invocation of Azura. For 300 years, I am a priestess of Azura, the Daedric Prince of Moonshadow, Mother of the Rose, and Queen of the Night Sky. Every Hagaturn, which we celebrate on the 21st of First Seed, we summon her for guidance, and to give up beautiful things to Her Majesty. She is a cruel but wise mistress. We do not invoke her on any Hagaturn troubled by thunderstorms, for these nights belong to the Mad One Sheergrath, even if they do coincide with Hagaturn. Azura understands our caution. We may summon her on other dates also, and she quite often responds. The only days we are forbidden to invoke her are those prescribed to one of the other 15 princes. The 1st and the 13th of Morningstar, the 12th and the 16th of Sun's Dawn, the 5th of First Seed, the 9th of Rain's Hand, the 9th of Second Seed, the 5th of Mid-Year, the 10th of Sun's Height, the 3rd of Hearthfire, the 8th and 13th of Frostfall, the 2nd and 20th of Sun's Dusk, and the 20th of Evening Star. I know who is summoned on the 3rd of Hearthfire, the 2nd of Sun's Dusk, and the 20th of Evening Star, but I'm not certain of the others. It's enough that Azura has forbidden those dates. Azura's invocation is a very personal one. I've been the priestess of 3 other Daedric princes, but Azura values the quality of her worshippers, the truth behind her adoration of her, and the... Okay, it just cuts off there. Weird. Okay, whatever. When I was a Dark Elven maiden of 16, I joined my grandmother's coven, worshippers of Molag Bal, the Schemer Prince. Blackmail, extortion, and bribery are as much the weapons of the witches of Molag Mal as magic is. The invocation of Molag Bal is held on the 20th of Evening Star, except in stormy weather. The ceremony is seldom missed, but Molag Bal often appears to occultist and mortal guise on other dates. When my grandmother died in an attempt to poison the air of Firewatch, I re-examined my faith in the cult. My brother was a warlock of the cult of Bantha, and from what he told me, The dark warrior was closer to my spirit than the treacherous Molag Bal. Blunder is a warrior prince who acts more overtly than any other Daedra. After years of skulking and scheming, it felt good to perform acts for my mistress, who had immediate consequences. Besides, I like that Blunder is a Daedra of the Dark Elves. I cult would summon her on the day we called the Gauntlet, the second of Sun's Dusk. Bloody competitions would be held in our honor, and the duels and battles would continue until 9 cultists were killed at the hands of the other cultists. Blunder cared little for her cultists. She only cared about our blood. I do think I saw her smile when I accidentally saw my brother in the spar. My horror, I think, greatly pleased her. I left the cult soon after that. Blunder was too impersonal for me, too cold. I wanted a master of a greater depth than she. For the next 18 years of my life, I worshipped no one. I read and researched. It was in an old and profane tome that I came upon the name of Nocturnal. Nocturnal the Night Mistress. Nocturnal the Unfathomable. And as the book prescribed, I called to her on her holy day, the 3rd of Hearthfire. At last, I had found the personal mistress I had so long desired. I strove to understand her labyrinth of pain. Everything about her was dark and shrouded, even the way she spoke, and the acts she required of me. It took years for me to understand the simple fact that I could never understand Nocturnal. Her mystery was as essential to her as savagery was to Blunder or treachery to Molag Bal. To understand Nocturnal is to negate her, to pull back the curtains in her realm of darkness. As much as I loved her, I recognized the futility of unraveling her enigmas. I turned instead to his sister, Azura. Azura is the only Daedra prince I have ever worshipped who seemed to care about her cultists. Molag Bal wanted my mind, Blunder wanted my arms, and Nocturnal, perhaps my curiosity. Azura wants all that, and our love. Not our abject slavering, but our honest and genuine love in all its forms. It is important to her that our emotions are engaged, and our love must also be directed inward. If we love her and hate ourselves, she will feel our pain. I have no other mistress. So, random worship books, because why not? Anyway, it's starting to get around that time where I need to close up. I think it's good to kind of do it right now anyway. We've found a library with a lot of random tomes. I think we've read a bunch in this one little sin. There's been a lot more than earlier today. And I definitely need to add all this to the list, so I'm definitely curious. Have we gone under 20? That would be the curiosity. We even read one of those multi-parter ones. Not one of the longest ones yet. It'll be nice when we could say, like, we got King Edward out of the way, just because that's like a 12-parter or so. And I'd really like to be able to say I got that one done. But also, like, Fool's Ebony would be another one that'd be nice to get rid of, because we have 5 of the 6 parts. So finding that 6th part would be nice. The Vampires one would also be good. And the History of the Empire parts 3 and 4. But yeah, we still have a bunch to do. We're pushing forward, though. We're getting book after book. And we're slowly cutting down, so that way we have a lot less books to hunt for. That way we can have much more of like an object list of like stuff that we are actually looking for, instead of like a bunch of books that we have read so far. Anyway, with all that in mind, thank you very much all for watching, and I shall see you all next time.